Oscar Chavula is executive chairperson of the Hot FM group. They are into radio. I think Hot FM will be turning 20 next year. They are into TV, they are into social media. He's also into filming and is also into many things. But besides media, he's an entrepreneur and is a public commentator on issues, that are civic, that are national in nature. Mr. Chavula, welcome to today's Conversation podcast. I'm grateful that you finally found time to come and be with us.
Thank you so much, H.A. It's a pleasure.
Yeah.
To come through and have the conversation.
Yeah. I am interested. Radio is something that is close to my heart. I've been a radio listener since my father gave me my first radio set, when I passed to go into grade 8, and this is what I learned about radio. So I've been tracking radio, and I've been in the industry as a listener, as now a professional journalist. But radio is passionate. What took you to radio?
So essentially, I've been entrepreneurial for, I think, since I was 8. So what I've purely done is just looked for opportunities. Okay. But then again, my family then knew that I had an eye for opportunities. Okay. So when my late nephew Zach elected to do radio, I think
Zach Chavula.
Chavula. When he elected to do radio, at the time he was at Phoenix. Mm-hmm. So he called me. I was working for Global and Partner in the UK. Mm-hmm. So he says, I want to start up a radio station. Are you willing to come along? For me, it was a quick yes, purely because I knew it was a long thing to do. So when it finally comes, it will come, but I didn't think it will come so early. So my yes was based on the fact that it was my nephew, and also I thought we could do what he wanted to do. He loved radio. So for me, it was just an opportunity to be of help, but also to just see his dream come true. So I didn't set out to do radio.
I see. Yeah. For you, it's business. Business.
It was,
and in this case, it was Zach.
Yeah, it was Zach who...
Although you called him your nephew, people didn't understand. You literally age mate, so he probably was older than you, I don't know.
No, so I am a months younger.
Yeah.
Months younger. But his father was my older brother.
Okay.
But we were brought up in the same house. Mm-hmm. So we grew up in the same house.
Yeah. No, I loved Zach. I may he saw rest in eternal peace. So people see Oscar Chavula behind the scenes. You have a lot of initiatives. Let's just talk about your early life. Who is Oscar Chavula, the Oscar Chavula we now see? Let's go back to time.
Okay, so essentially I turned 51 this year. I turned 50 last year.
Yeah.
So on August 30th, I'll turn 51. So I'm a Coppola person. I started my life in the Copper Belt. Kitwe specifically, went to Riverine Primary School, which is in Nkana East. Did my grade 1 to grade 7. There, jumped. I think I did jump grade 5. Went straight into grade 6.
What? You were a smart kid?
Yeah, I was one of those people that actually my older brother thought I was wasting time in grade 5. Yeah. So he jumped into grade 6, did grade 7, went to Kitwe Boys for a year, then came through to, that's when I moved to Lusaka. I moved to Lusaka, lived with my older sister for a year. In Northmead, I was at Rhodes Park Schools. I did my grade 9 there. Then I went to Monali. I was at Monali for the next 3 years. We were toy-toying a bit, did quite a few things. I think by 1991, I was in grade 11. 92, I completed. I stayed a year in to get my funds organized for school abroad. Then I went into South Africa. From South Africa, I was accepted at then, in those early years, it was a Technikon Witwatersrand.
Which is now which university?
No, which is now Johannesburg University. I think that's what
okay.
they've turned it into. I think, I think 3 years later, that's when they turned it into that. So I worked for, initially, when I was at school, I was also doing manual.
Why didn't you go to the local universities and local colleges?
So one of the things that I'd always known about me was that I didn't really have a father. So my dad passed away when I was 8.
Okay.
So from that point, I had no time to waste. So one of the things that I quickly realized, maybe by 11, I knew that I needed to get over and done with school very quickly. So there was no need to fail. There was also no need to repeat. So based on that alone, it also meant to a greater extent that when I was growing up, when I was at Munali, we were part of the people that were getting UNZA closed. Because we would make all the noise, we'll line up, we'll throw stones. So I knew UNZA would then be closed.
Yeah.
Now, if I stuck around there, I knew I was going to lengthen my time, and I had nobody to pay for my school. So the year that I stuck around, which was 1993, I worked for a company called Chips Enterprises. I used to commute from here to Kafue every single day to just go and help a family friend who had a business there. But ideally, she told me, if you do this for me, I'll find you resources, and then you go and do what you want to do. So that year was committed particularly to.
So you looked for your own money?
Yeah,
to go to college in South Africa?
Yeah.
You didn't have a sponsor?
No.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, I didn't have. And even when I got there, I was still doing whatever I needed to do and still doing school at the same time.
You said you started as, you literally can trace your entrepreneurial spirit as early as when you were 8. What does that mean?
So basically, I could see opportunities. When I was younger, I just knew I was survival based, really. It was a lot of survival instinct kicking in.
Yeah, after losing your father, being raised by a single mother, you knew you needed to support the family.
And I'm Tumbuka, so you can imagine how tradition works. So as soon as my father passed away, on the last day of the funeral, my cousins, my older brothers, literally just picked a child there. So all the 4 of us were taken to new families. That's how I found myself with my older brother.
Okay.
So when to leave, even if it was near, I still had to go and live with him at his house. Yeah, so based on that, I quickly realized that I needed to, I was good with my hands, always been. So I would make wire cars during holidays and sell them. And once I knew that I could make money, I just built on that. So I always had an eye for opportunities.
So when you were in South Africa, what did you study?
Systems engineering. I'm a computer person.
So you didn't pursue business studies, you didn't pursue commercial studies? No.
So
So it's the scientist in you again?
Yeah. So I'm a technical person and always been. So we used to break and make radios. I'd open watches, I had quite a collection of things that I dismantled, and we used to make simple radios. So technically, I knew exactly what I wanted to do. Essentially, I wanted to do electronics, but I noticed that the courses around that area, which I liked, were a bit, I remember the first year alone was close to 18,000 Rand. And I would much rather do what I could do easily. And then I think I also got to love computing because it was just taking hold. So I was one of the first people to understand programming, to do programming, to get certain things done. So when MCSE was coming up, certification by Microsoft, by quite a number of companies, we were some of the first people to be trained in those areas and fields.
Let's go to your transition to your professional life. So after you were done with school, did you work in South Africa? Did you come to Zambia? What happened?
So my first day out of college basically meant I had to go and work for a company called Q Data, which was affiliated at the time with Anglo America to some extent. So I worked there for a bit, and the bit was about 6 months. So it was during that time when they were trying, I think that sent quite a number of people abroad for training. And I think I was bypassed twice. And then one of the guys that worked...
Was it because you were Zambian in South Africa, or was it because you were black?
So I couldn't tell immediately, but at that time, when I was in school, I got the privilege of getting permanent residence in SA. So I didn't know what could be the cause. But it was also, to a greater extent, they wanted their people first.
Yeah.
So when they still, I think, had a number of people that is needed to send, that's when they sent me.
You finally got the opportunity.
Yeah, so I finally got the opportunity, but I still had to come back home, clear my visas and all of those things, went back into SA, and then I went to the United Kingdom.
What did you study in the UK? Because it looks like it has become your second home. Because every time I would call you, you said, no, I'm flying, I'm in the UK.
Yeah.
So I think your relationship with UK must have started then.
It started actually then. When I got there, that's when I realized, so when I got there, I quickly realized that I was not really valued in SA. So I was there for I think 8 months, and they wanted me back. But at the time, in the area that I was working, there were other companies that were competing for the same spaces, and they needed professionals like me. Yeah. So it was very easy. I got a chance to interact with one of the directors of Global and Partner. It's an international company. So he just told me, I wouldn't mind having you in my team. So if you want to come, we'll do your paperwork and everything else. That's how my stay in the UK started. I mean, continued, because then I had to resign from my other work and then...
In South Africa.
Yeah, and get myself settled in the UK. But even then, my first love has always been to come back home. So I remember telling myself, I'm not going to do mortgages, I'm not going to do any of the things that get people stuck abroad. Yeah. So I'm going to get back home, and then I'll get something going. Yeah. Yeah, but more so it's the entrepreneur in me that felt, you know what, I could see opportunities, where you're sitting or you're in a foreign land. Every time you're comparing, what if I did this back home? What if I did this back home? What would happen? So I always saw those opportunities, but I also knew from what I'd started, because then I began to, Global and Partner was leaning towards automotive. Okay. So it's a company that would lean towards automotive greatly. So I love cars. So
yeah, social media knows you. Yeah. You post cars, you drive, very sports cars, and you just love cars. Tell us about that.
So basically, I used to make wire cars. Yeah. I used to make night riders like nobody would make them. Yeah. So it's just dreaming, really. I've loved cars. I dreamt of owning some cars, and the cars that I loved. So when I had the chance and the opportunity to have them, it was very easy for me to go into a showroom and buy one.
The entrepreneur in you, it doesn't hit you that you are spending or wasting so much money on a car, because those are very expensive cars.
Yeah, so you see, like essentially, actually, one of the things that people don't quite understand about me is that actually they see things way late. So if I posted something, I probably have it already. I see. So it's never like I made money today and then went and bought something tomorrow. No. So one of the things that I've done over the years is I work towards profitability in every business that I do. But more so, I only reward myself after I've made money for the business. So it's never out of, it's never my capital. It's always money that's either sitting or suspended, or money that I didn't even believe I would have. And it's come in many forms and shapes. But I work so hard. You
speak entrepreneurship, so I'll come to that. Yeah. Because a lot of people get things wrong. They think being an entrepreneur, as soon as you have your first contract, you buy that favorite sports car or Mercedes-Benz or 4x4. I'll come to that. And I want us to spend time, especially for young people that admire and think they can be entrepreneurs, and who speak to that. You decided to support Zach. Is that the reason you came back?
No. So from day one, even when I went abroad, wherever I've been, my desire was to come back home. So there's never been a time when I felt I wanted to stay in another country or do anything. But I've never lived in a country illegally. So in every country that I've been, I made sure my papers were right, but more so my intention was to grow my capital and also capacity in terms of education, in terms of, it's a simple things, like I did IT, and IT without a business background doesn't help you much. So you want to be able to build what you can be able, put yourself together in a way that allows you growth. So I've always felt I wanted to come back home. So even when HOT started, I was doing something else. I was basically, because I was in the automotive industry, and when I came back, I was literally, the country was littered with vehicles that had stuck purely because there was nobody who could touch their computers, and I was the only person that was trained in that way. So I found myself dealing with quite a number of top-end vehicles that people could not repair. Repair. I mean, they would just switch off, and they didn't know, people didn't know how to work around those. So, and a lot of foreigners had, especially Senegalese, had high-end vehicles that they couldn't service. Now, I could do that within an hour, and I would walk away with a good, I mean, because they could have been sitting for years, and they didn't know what to do. So I had solutions for all of those things. So for me, it's always been seeing opportunities and being able to work around opportunities.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you came to support Zach, but you also began, I mean, essentially you're doing other business, and radio was like a side support.
Yeah, so essentially that's what happened, because I funded the business. I put in money. So I quickly realized, I think in the initial year, I realized that my nephew was a good guy.
But was he a businessman?
No, he wasn't.
Okay.
So I realized that he wasn't a businessman.
Yeah.
So the first year, he would literally call me just towards the month end. Are you able to handle salaries this month? And I thought, but you guys told me that it would be able to run on its own once I had gotten the transmitters, paid for the place where you guys were going to operate, and just set it up. So it's getting a bit off what's going on. So I quickly realized that even when I came back home, I quickly realized that the love was there, but the capacity wasn't there. That's how I found myself into the radio business, inside the radio business, purely because in the initial stages, I was just a shareholder. Yeah. But then I realized I'm the one that's going to lose money.
I need to know how it is made, or how it is lost.
No. So I literally fear gripped me, because I realized that if I didn't step in, this thing was going to collapse, and I was the only person that had put his own money up.
Okay.
So I was going to lose big time. So I decided, I'm going to help you. And we did it. I mean, it's my nephew. So, and it's funny how we Tumbukas. So even if, whatever it is, me, I'm the uncle. I'm the father. So when I speak, he would listen. So essentially, we just didn't need a third party. We just knew exactly that I needed to take charge of the business side of the business. And so we separated what we needed to do. He handled the product, I handled the business.
Okay.
And that's how
so he would plan the programming.
The programming and everything was his baby.
You marketing and ensuring that the money was coming in and the management of it.
Yeah, that's how we ran it. And it was very difficult for people to know how we did it, but purely because we had an understanding as to what strengths who would work with. Yeah. Now,
radio is a very protected industry from a long time. The first radio station, I think, ran in Zambia in 1941, the one that transitions to be ZBS, then, ZMBC. We had the first Liberation Radio in 1955, that was set up by the ANC and other liberation movements. But we only had private station, the first radio station, privately owned, because like I'm saying, it's a very closed space.
Yes, it is.
And you get in trouble with authorities all the time, and I want us to discuss that. So the first time we opened it up to the private sector was 1994. We had a Christian president. He was given an offer by a pastor from UK that I want to open Radio Christian Voice, and he realizes the legality of it was not available for him to allow a private station. So Radio Christian Voice opened and led the way for all of you.
Yeah,
you know,
it is.
Phoenix, and you came up, I think, a few years later as Hot FM. How have you handled the controversies?
So, the one thing that I actually learned very fast was politicians come and go.
Yeah.
Don't sit in the aisle. Don't get into a space where you're compromised.
Yeah.
So for me, what I've not turned out, or what I've not turned up, or probably worked with, was essentially just to be able to suck up to them, or basically be in their pocket, or run their narrative. So we realized that very early on. Why? Because once you go that route, it's very difficult to come back. So we've maintained the fact that the only time that we pick a side is in an election year. Once the elections are over, we go back to normal programming. Why? Because we think we have a voice, and we have a side to choose if we have to. Meaning 2 elections we have not picked a side, but the previous elections we did pick a side, and I felt that was an important thing to do. So there's been time when we felt we needed to go a particular direction, but I still needed to pull back. Why? Because as the radio station has grown older and become a bit more influential, we realized that our mistake can be costly. And we don't want to lead people in paths where you regret later. So sometimes if we felt we'll provide a service and people will pick a side. And there are times when we felt we will help pick a side. But it hasn't been the past 2 elections.
Yeah, the times when you run breakfast shows or talk shows and authorities are agitated. Sometimes they demand that you fire certain people, you close down or you shut. What do you do in those circumstances?
So I've had the rare pleasure of being basically thrown about, of being thrown about, and people think they can do that. But I think they misunderstand their abilities, or they overstretch themselves in terms of capability. I mean, I've had ministers call me to their office and tell me, if you don't fire this person, we'll close you down. And I've told them, go ahead and close us down. Because for me, it's neither here nor there. The truth of it is, we stand on the truth every time, all the time. And that I can back any day. Yeah. Because if anybody says something that is untrue, I will fire them. Okay. So my point is, we have to be above board. And if we're above board, it sells itself. But if you're not above board, if you're running narratives, it becomes difficult, because then you are in a space where you can lose it all, and a finger can be pointed at you, and that's what we refuse to do. So essentially, how have I handled it? It's just been a no.
And advertisers, that's another part. First of all, the media budgets by companies has continued to shrink. Because first of all, the people in the industry think they don't need to advertise until they're in trouble, you know. But many people don't find value in advertising. But there are few, like detergent makers, mobile companies, that it's relevant because of the competition, and they're in a mass market that they should advertise. How do you tackle that, and how do you win them over?
Basically, you see what has happened, and this is what a lot of people didn't realize in the initial stage, is that Hot FM it's a well thought idea. It's not a random, I saw someone with a car, so I should open a radio station and buy a car. No, it was planned for. From day one, we knew what Zach wanted. He interpreted his vision, and we carried his vision. And we've owned the vision. So if you've noticed, we tinker with it very mildly. And the only reason we tinker with it is because technology changes, competitors come through. When we started, there was no Facebook, there was no Twitter, there was none of those.
Yeah.
So as they've come, we've noticed how they're eating into our markets. We've basically gone to them and play their game. So that tinkering is by demand, really, or it's ordered by nature, purely because whatever we need to do, we have to do in the environment that we live. So when we see the market share, whatever is happening around it, we just build around it. We just work around it, and we know what our strengths are. So from day one, we always knew where we would sit if we did certain things right. So it's not like something that just happened. We got like, we actually had a proper SWOT of most of these businesses around the radio industry. That's why, if you noticed, when we started Hot, we were given a funny frequency, 96.8. And
those days, cars only could go up to 90 megahertz, I think.
Yeah.
You couldn't go, you had to buy a certain gadget.
Yeah. A band expander.
Yeah, a band expander. You are the technocrat, you can tell us,
So even with all of that, we knew we were literally competing with our back tied, our hands tied to the back. But we did know we needed to establish the system first. We needed to get into the system. How are we going to go to cars, which is now Zekta, and say, please drop us down to a competitive frequency if we didn't know where we're standing? So it took us another 2 years before we dropped to 87.7, where we've been for the past, I think, 18 years, 17, 18 years. So the long and short of it is, we've worked to our purpose and our strength. There's been some tinkering here and there, but no real surprises, really, because we knew what everybody's weaknesses were at some point, and we knew how to get around it. And Zach was a radio guy. So he was an insider who literally said, you know what, if we go this direction, this is what we'll become. But again, it's been a case of, let's do things excellently. So that in itself does knock off competition very quickly.
I must admit that this is the most neglected industry in Zambia. You have been to South Africa. You know how heavily invested that radio and TV are. You've been to Kenya, you've been to UK, you've been elsewhere in Europe. And we have stations owned by, like you. They are not multinationals that have invested heavily with a lot of money into making radio and TV, maybe big corporates. What has been a drawback? That's why even, these advertisers literally throw shoestring budgets at you guys, despite the work that you do.
For me, it's also the way the country runs itself. We sometimes act like doormats. So there's no protection for our industry, on average. Anybody can come in, like in many jurisdictions. I mean, I have permanent residence in the UK, so I can live there as long as I want, forever if I want to. But that's not priority for me. So I can get licenses if I want to. But you won't believe how they preserve their industry. They lock it down for their own people. The same with South Africa. I mean, we can go into South Africa, we can go into many jurisdictions, but there are certain things that don't just require ring fencing. They require support, but more so protection. Why? Because broadcasters speak to the country. If you do not pay particular attention into those places and circles, you quickly have a rogue member who you will never know about, but could be funding something. Why? So you need a country that knows what they're doing, protects itself, knows exactly how to get, how to get even marketing company to do things right. One of the biggest problems in the media right now, and has always been from time immemorial, has been most of these companies that run adverts with us and many other companies, they pay very poorly and badly. So they can pay you on the 84th. They pay you when they want to pay you, and there's no protection. And you can't do that in jurisdiction like South Africa or the UK. Why would you want to get a service that you're not ready to pay for? So it brings the value of the industry down very, very quickly. If I mean, we can stand up for ourselves purely because we're bigger than most, I mean, if not the biggest. We can pull, we can do what we want to do if we wanted to.
Yeah.
We can literally close off an advertiser and just tell them we're not going to do business with you if you don't do this. But this is...
But smaller stations might not have that opportunity.
Yeah. So this is at the back of 19 years of literally standing up to rogue companies. And there are companies that have come in, advertised, and closed. And they never paid anyone. So it's a case of getting interested. Especially, we have sometimes people that are just loudmouths. They talk about things they have no understanding of. And sometimes I sit and I wish I could just sit them down and tell them, you don't know what you're talking about. Yeah. If you had asked, we could tell you. But purely because they come or they're probably coming from a political background, so they think they know it, or purely because they're in a certain privileged position, they can speak as they want. And yet this industry has needed support. Because, to be honest, we've gotten to a point where, how often do you even know what the truth is? You wouldn't know the truth is, and you have to wait for the news at 18 hours if something happened at 13 hours. Why? Because the authentic voices have no capacity to be able to broadcast that immediately. Why? Because they don't have resources. And it's not just the difficult side of it. It's also the easy things, like having a television in the studio. When some breaking news happen, you're able to see it and also report on it. It's simple things like those. Yeah. And a lot of our members or a lot of people in the media will tell you, it's a difficult thing to do. Yeah. And for us, fortunately, we have multiple businesses. So a limping one can be carried by 2, 3, 4 others. Yeah. But it's because we've dared to do other things over the 19, 20 years that we've been around. Yeah.
You have an interest in film. Is this a subsidiary of Hot Group, or is it your passion? Because I think you've produced, I think, 2 international movies that catalogued. You can even watch them even if you are on an airline.
Yeah, so we have them on a number of airlines now. But the catch is, I'm not a movie guy, but my immediate older sister's oldest son, he wanted to do film. And because he insisted he wants to do film, and the mother wanted him to do law, I won the battle of doing film. Okay. So I then went on to literally shoulder the
like you did with Zach.
Yes.
You said, let's pursue your dream.
Your dream, yeah. So let's chase it. So
this is Kazadi.
Yeah, this is Kazadi. So that's my immediate older sister's oldest son. So he went and completed that, and he went to London School of. He completed his degree at Stafford University, then went to train at the London School of Films. So he did the full.
He's properly qualified as a filmmaker.
He's a proper filmmaker. Not for. Once he had done that, I still allowed him 4 years to just be in the industry there, so that he learned the ropes properly. And once he had learned the ropes properly, he himself told me.
Has he relocated? Is he with you now?
Yeah. So okay. he decided, I want to come home. I'm like, okay, fine. You are who you are. Come back. Come home and let's do this. But besides, their training is very rigorous. Yeah. So he ran through the paces, and by the time he was coming, he had two good movies out.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So it's a case of, now that we're comfortable with what he had become, what he had achieved, that's when we decided he was going to do this. And for us, the simple thing is to assimilate them into the family business, purely because in as much as he can't find his own dream, the truth of it is he can grow his own dream if it's properly supported. So that forms part of the bigger part of the businesses that we have.
Speak to the patience that is required to grow a business. Probably took you a lot of years for Hot FM to begin to make profit.
Yeah.
You know, people just look at success, or even the film industry that you're supporting. Maybe you've sunk in more money than the return, and the return could be coming many years later. I've seen a lot of people that think they can be business people, they can be entrepreneurs, and they think they can get a contract and be businessmen. Just speak to that and the difficulties we are facing. Because you have no jobs, so entrepreneurship becomes a good angle. And many people just say, if you give me capital, I can do the business.
Yeah, so I love the idea of the drive. I can do this. But what school won't teach you is how to get it done properly and how to get it done in an environment. And every jurisdiction has its own challenges. My take is, don't leave your day job to try and be a businessman.
That's number one.
Yeah.
A lot of people think, because of this passionate dream, I think I can make money, I can cook food, I can open a restaurant, I should leave my job.
That's not how it works.
Okay.
Why? It doesn't work like that, because the business side of things and the passion side of things, it's a whole different thing. And you just don't walk into business purely because you saw your neighbor do it. There's a whole host of things that you need to do, a lot of market research, a lot of understanding who your clients will be. So it's a lot of things that you need to do in the background. And once you've done that, you still haven't done much. Why? Because you still have to do the maths of business. But you also realize that you will have to pay school fees, because businesses don't always go the way you want them to go. So you have to.
In fact, I learned when I would officiate at incubations that sometimes it takes up to 3 years for you to come and make the first profit.
It took us 8 years to get any money that was viable at heart. Wow. And this is at the back of us having remortgaged our flat in the UK. Wow. Why? Because we needed to keep the business alive. Every penny and every coin that I'd raised over the previous 5 years,
depleted your savings.
Everything depleted. But thankfully, I've been an entrepreneur, so I could see
hope.
Yeah, I could see not just hope, I could see months away that we're going to land into that. Why? Because making money looks easy or sounds easy, but you have to learn. It's a whole school to learn how to handle money, to learn how to respect money, to learn how to relate to money. It's a whole host of things that you need to learn. And you won't believe this. You only learn on the job. So it's never something that can be taught to you like, this is how you do this. You have to burn your fingers a couple of times for you to realize, if I go this route, I get damaged. So I'm not going to go that route. You try another route, you could get damaged, but you will know what not to touch. And
I laugh at all of us when you have a big gratuity or pension, then you think you can become a businessman.
Oh, it's a mistake.
Yeah.
It's a big mistake. I'd actually rather tell you, find a proper person that can teach you how to invest and sit at home, learn the art, and then try slowly in small bits. That way you don't lose your whole chunk. I've seen people lose their entire pension. Yeah. I've seen people literally try to invest in things they have no understanding in, or try to start a business that they had no clue, but they wanted to keep themselves busy, and they lose everything, and they become destitute. Yeah. So it's, for me, I just tend to think business is an art.
Don't you, everything you know, probably didn't learn it in our school curriculum. No one taught you what you know.
Very little.
And this is what I bemoan, that you needed an education system that responds, for example, to your passion to be a business person. But the school never equipped you. It had to be trial and error. You even lost a lot of money along the way. Imagine if it was taught during the period you were in school.
It could have been easy, I think, because then I could have had signposts. I'd know exactly where to turn, how to do this, and how basically you would have the basic knowledge. For me, a lot of business is lost, a lot of mistakes are made in the early stages when you don't understand what you're doing. But that's also where you lose your resilience. That's where you lose your footing. Because you can make deadly mistake, but with a bit of knowledge or with a bit of background, that could save you from probably stretching it. Now, that in itself also doesn't come easy. It's not something that you can wake up and say, okay, fine, I'm going to do this and it's going to work. No. Everything is a risk. Me getting full-time into the media business was as a result of just being able to see that if I don't step in here, I'm about to lose money. Now, that is not a nice thing to feel. That you have to make those decisions. A lot of people are also afraid of making decisions, hard decisions. But what I've learned in the businesses that we do is decisions have to be made, but they have to be informed. They have to be informed by facts, by reality on the ground, and also by what's obtaining. You don't build castles in the air purely because you can. But I also feel to a greater extent, if you learn the arts quickly or early, it will serve you a lot from a lot of heartache. But I do think I've been lucky. I've been exposed. I've had the privilege of working in jurisdiction that allowed me to have resources. And if I worked harder, I could make more money. And even when I worked for Global and Partner, I knew I only had 2 years to do this. I'd get back home. But even when I get back home, I kept on asking myself, what am I going to do home? Why? Because there was no car industry here. And I just majored in OBD2. And that was the...
What's OBD2? You need to tell our...
So OBD2 basically is a language system that you program cars in.
Okay.
So if you've noticed, when you plug that thing in the car, a computer in the car, it goes onto an OBD2 port, and there's a language which speaks to that. So that's what I'd just done. So I realized, what am I going to go home to? So it's a lot of things that I could do abroad, but I couldn't do back home. But I was very sure that I could be part of what I'm capable of doing in terms of my hands. I was good with, I've always been a technical person. And I did understand that there was quite a bit that I could just do back home. Because me living...
And as we transition to the issues that the hot ones, you run current affairs. Your radio station runs one of the hottest current affairs, first in news and in, the talk show programs that you have. How far do you get involved with those? Do you let them run by your team, or do you bother to get, do you even listen to your own station?
Nothing just happens.
Tell me about
Nothing just happens. So we are a tech company, even if we're media.
Okay.
So I have oversight of everything.
Okay.
But I do not control everything.
Okay.
So I can see through where it needs amending, correction, direction. I will immediately do that. But there are times when people are learning, they need to do this, they need to do that. Sometimes I watch, and many a times, in the back of it, if you've known it, you have to know me to be able to know that there's correction there. Okay. Why? Because a lot of it starts and ends with me. Purely because I know I've been exposed to the business longer, so I know the ins and outs. I know who wakes up at what time, who overreacts to what. But that's a list of my fears. All I want, and all I've told our team, is for me, the only thing that doesn't work is lies. We stand by the truth. We don't stand by what makes people feel right, or we don't do fairness. We just do what's right in terms of the truth. So if the truth is blue, we will call it blue.
You won't call it black.
Yeah, so, I mean, my phone does go red sometimes. The people that feel a certain way about things. But I've done this for 19 years, so I've really been spoken to poorly over the 19 years, but I can't be bothered really. So it's not just building a thick skin. I know what we do. Yeah. We keep it honest, we keep it clear, and that's all we demand of the people that serve the community through our broadcast and people that speak to people through what we do. So it's never intention. I don't walk in a studio like, you can't do that, you can't say that. None of our presenters will ever tell you that I told them, attack this one for this purpose. No, I do not do those things. If there's that mistake, I'll literally quickly yank you out of the broadcast studio and you will not be on that show. So I demand, and the team, basically, most of these things are produced, so they don't just sit on my laps. So I see the program and how it's going to run the following day, a day earlier.
Okay.
If it's not anything that is happening in real time.
The term is produced.
Yeah. So it is.
You at least you do a mock trial.
Yeah, so we know exactly what's going to happen. And many a times, we know what's where.
You'll have very little surprises.
Surprises, yeah. So we'll know exactly. And if there's a mistake, it probably is a genuine mistake. But even then, we don't run our people under the bus.
Oscar, you have demonstrated that you love this country. You had opportunities in South Africa, you had opportunities in UK, but you came back home. I think you love the country and you love it deeply. And I think this segment then helps us. Zambia is celebrating its Diamond Jubilee, 60 years anniversary. And I think this is a remarkable period for our country. It gives us an opportunity to reflect what we've done wrong, what we've done right, what we could do better, and things we shouldn't repeat in the next 60 years. Because you run Hot FM and because of your personality, you've had an opportunity to meet various important people, including many of our presidents of our country. And as we reflect on the next 60 years, and as you give me your views, what could we have done better? What mistakes did we make? How do we make it better? Let's start with our founding president, Dr. Kenneth Kaunda.
So in the initial years, I thought Kaunda was demonic. Yeah. And I'm being honest.
Yeah, of course. This is a conversation podcast.
I thought
he struck you that he was demonic.
I mean, but more so, I lived in an era of Makadesh or all of those transcendental meditation and all of that. Yeah. I mean, we had funny things happening during his time. So
I guess people may not know that you're a Christian at heart. You probably participated in Christian union activities. So
I was actually at the service at State House when Zambia was declared a Christian nation.
Wow.
I was there.
Wow.
I was in that audience. Yeah. So I've been around quite a bit. But one of the things that you quickly realize is that that's for Kaunda, I felt that way about him. But it's only later on in years that I've just realized that
you began to appreciate him.
That was a good guy. That was a good president, you know. So you must literally, it's with hindsight. But anyway, vision, hindsight is 2020, you know. Yeah. So you see better. You actually can compare. And I felt yet overstayed. Which I think is, when you overstay, it shows. You lose quite a bit of your color, and you also lose, you become the system. And I felt that had gone on for too long. I loved Chiluba. We
can transition to Frederick Chiluba.
So
if you were even in the audience when he declared Zambia as a Christian nation on 29th December 1991.
Yeah, I was there. Just came off church and we're told, there's something happening at State House, and we're all invited, and we walked in. So I loved Chiluba. With all his mistakes, with all whatever everybody feels or whatever anybody thinks about him, I just loved the guy. He was my president. But luckily, as soon as he became president, I was out of the country. I was literally leaving. I think a year or so. I was a youngster, so I was going to pursue my career and life at other places. So over the years, I've known, those are the presidents that I really didn't know personally. Yeah, so it got into Manawa. Someone else I didn't know on a personal level, but I was also 90% out of the country. So when I was coming back, it was at the back of that transition between Manawasa and Rupia Banda. So I got to see Rupia Banda, I got to meet with him. I think he was a good old man. He was a fair man in terms of how he handled me and how it was. You know, like I remember one phone call on a Saturday afternoon, no morning around 10. So he calls and says he wants to speak to me. So I'm like, the president wants to speak. Yeah. So I pick up the call and we talk. And you won't believe, I'm expecting him. So we're literally running an election during election time.
Yeah.
So the previous few days I'd just been spoken to Henry, and I shared my concerns.
Yeah.
So I think he did share.
Henry is the son to President Emmanuel.
Yeah. So he shared it with the father. So the father then called me on a Saturday and was like, how are you? And the funny part is, it doesn't have start the conversation in like, I'm president, this and this and this and this.
Yeah.
So he introduces himself by the first name. So I'm thinking, really? So I'm actually
like
thinking,
it's a prank call.
Like it's a prank call. So it's in the voice that I hear that, and then I'm like, I'm now subdued. So I want to understand what his concerns were. But we have a conversation. Now, a conversation with the head of state, that is unassuming. And for me, however late it was, because for me, I'd picked a side. I was a Michael's guy.
Yeah.
Once I'd picked a side,
in that 2011 elections, you were on the side of Michael Sata.
I was on the side of Michael, and purely because I had a nasty experience with Kachingwe, Major Kachingwe. He was, I didn't find him very...
Who was Secretary General
at the time. He called me literally he called me to the MND Secretariat at Lusaka House, and he had quite a bit to say. And
why? He was not happy with what you covered?
Yeah, he wasn't happy with what we covered. He didn't like the breakfast, and he insisted that I pull people off radio. And I told him I wasn't going to do it. And he just went ballistic. I don't know what was off, but he gave me instructions, and that he wasn't asking me. He was telling me. I told him I'll think about it. So when I got to the office, I shared it with some of the senior team, and they just told me, like, you were right, don't bother with them. So when he called me, I just told him I'm not going to do it. He can decide to do what he wants to do. And he was like, are you serious?
He wasn't even threatening to close your station?
He did. They all do, isn't it? They all do. They all give it a go at some point. But so RB called me, because I told that to Henry. So RB called me and he apologized. And I was like,
the president apologized for Richard Kachingwe's
mistakes. And it's like, come through to the farm. I'm going tomorrow. Let's come. We have some lunch. And I actually drove into Chipata.
Wow.
To just go and have a meal with them. Yeah. So it's that's
everyone says he was an affable guy.
Yeah, he
very
was
nice.
And you won't believe, he didn't even refer to the previous conversation. He just wanted to have lunch, and he had his friends there. And we stuck around for another 20 minutes. He didn't want us to go, but he said we're going back and we left. Wow. So Michael was my guy.
So Michael wins elections. You guys were very actively, I think, even on the road with him.
We did a lot with him.
And you'd carry him live on wherever he was having rallies, whether it was in Choma, whether it was Nakonde. He didn't offer you a job like he did to many?
He did. He did, and I courteously turned it down.
Wow.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
So he obviously called me on a Saturday and like, this is what I want to do, and there's a letter for you there. I actually have the letter still. Yeah.
What did he offer you to?
I can't say that.
Okay. But you have the letter.
Yeah, I have the letter.
We'll see it in your book one day.
Yeah, one of these. Yeah. So I got the letter. I didn't immediately turn it down.
So he didn't ask you, he had appointed you?
He had. And he actually thought I was so interested in that job that I'll take it.
Yeah.
So I said, I'll think about it. Like, what are you thinking about?
I've given you a job.
Yeah, job, yeah. So I went home, but I knew the answer then. But I didn't know that, I mean, at this point, this is not the right time to turn him down. But let me go, like, I thought about it, and then I come back. So I thought about it, and I consulted, and then I asked to see him. He says, yes. He says, I'm not going to take up the job. Maybe other people can take up the job. I would like to be home, and I would be useful. Maybe next time you need me. He says, no. But I want you. I'm like, I would not be able to go. I would not be able to do it. So we had a conversation. He wasn't happy about it, but at least he let me.
Because I remember your right-hand man during that campaign who anchored it was George Lyons.
Joe, yeah.
And he immediately went to ZMBC as DG, but you turned down the job.
But equally, I think it didn't stop there. Michael, at some point, so I'm going to see him. You remember? So this is a conversation that involves you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you Should I? Okay.
You are on the conversation podcast.
Okay, so you remember you called me and said, Oscar, what is this issue that you have with this handler here? because he's asked me to close Hot FM down. And then I said, why? And then he said, I'm not going to do it, but I'm just trying to tell you that what is the issue? Yeah. I'm like, I don't know what the issue is, but since he's told you that, I'm going to see the president. So I tried by all means to try and get through to the president. I kept on getting blocked. So eventually I realized, oh, I know a couple of people that could open this door.
Could get me to him.
Yeah. So I decided, yeah. So he said, no, come and see me at 14. So I went to see the president. I'm like, what do you want to close this down? And he says, me. He was really off it. So he called whoever was doing those jokes and really like had a go at them. Yeah. But when he told him to go away, and then he said, you see, you've been hanging on to a job that's not making you money. I offered you a job and you refused the job. I'm like, but this is what I love to do. And then he says, I want your CV now. Kaiser, go with this chummy of yours. Go with this friend of yours. He should bring the CV himself. Yeah.
I'm like, he still wanted to give me a job.
Yeah, so I'm like, he says, I said, I don't know. He says, I tell him that I don't want a job. And then he says, have you ever worked for government before? I'm like, but I've worked for global, but that's not government. Yeah. So I want you to work for government so that you gain that experience. Yeah. I'm like, I don't think so. Then he just released me and said, go and bring your CV here. Yeah. But the funny bit is, during that same conversation, he says, look in that drawer. In that drawer. So I go and then I see, sometimes when I sit, the things I've been exposed to. I go and see in that drawer. I see prominent people that were applying for jobs. And it's telling me, look, keep looking. Yeah. Who haven't gotten jobs, now they were attacking him outside because they hadn't gotten jobs. So he tells me, you see what I tell you? Yeah. Don't allow anybody to just come and talk on your radio station. Because some of them, it's because I haven't given them jobs. But then you go and bring your CV because I'm about to fire this one and that one and that one. And I'll give you the job. And some of the names were like, huh? Really? Yeah. But the long and short of it is, I went to the office and I just called Kaiser and said, I'm not going to do it. Yeah, that's how I didn't even...
I've not produced a CV for anyone.
Yeah, so I've just never even written one. I even told the president that I don't have a CV, never needed one. Then he just said, no, go and write one. Yeah. So that was with President
What did you think of his policy and running of the country?
If I'm honest, I have never had a president that I loved that much. Michael, I loved. But not because he was president, because Michael cared for me. Yeah. Michael, like a few things people didn't actually pick about him is that Michael wanted to know where I was sleeping in the bush. Yeah. If I was with him in the bush, he would ask,
where on the campaign trail?
Yeah. Where's Oscar? Or where's Chilazi? Are these guys eaten? Where's their food? Do you get the... Michael was completely concerned. If I was eating biscuit and he saw me nearby, he would say, give me some. That's the father-son relationship I had with him. Yeah. And if he needed to correct me, I mean, he lashed at everybody. I don't know why he would pull me by the side and this,
he didn't lash you in front of everyone like he did to all of us.
Why? So I knew that. And that's why I felt... For me, there are times when, even the day that I went to tell him that this handler of yours wants to close Hot, he was so angry. And he literally told them, where were you when this boy was literally dying in the bush to try and broadcast me? Yeah. You were busy wherever he was. When I was living there, I think there was something that the First Lady was doing. And it was going to cost 10,000 per entry. When I was leaving, he told me, go and give this ticket to your wife so that she can come. That's how he literally treated me. So with Michael, I'll take a bullet. In terms of policy, I felt there was a number of things that he meant well. Michael, for me, was a genius. It's just that things didn't add up. Sometimes we'd walk around, the campaign trail and you'll tell me, I'll open this country. I'll put roads everywhere. I'll make sure, because sometimes in getting from the northern province to the east, so we had to come back to Lusaka and then go to the eastern province if we didn't have a helicopter. So that used to make him really go off. Like, why? What country is this? This is shorter to get to the Eastern Province, then go to Lusaka and then come this way. So it's those things that he would share with me or share with us during campaign times, not on radio, where he's telling you what he thought about the country. Yeah. So those endeared me to him, but more so, if I'm honest, he's probably the only president in my lifetime who I've met who kept every one of his word to me and to the things that I believed he said he would do. Yeah. Purely because he may not have had lofty things to say. Yeah. But he demonstrated them in action. Yeah, he did what he needed to do. With Edgar Lungu. Yeah. You had an opportunity to be with Edgar Lungu. So you helped with the transition. Our lives really like, it started well. You remember we gave him we made sure the struggles with Scott were a bit.
Oh, you guys were always there. I would call you guys at short notice.
Yeah, at short notice.
And the Obivan would be out there and you'd broadcast us live.
Yeah. So initially we wanted order and I'd picked a side. And I think we wanted to help him. You remember you and I would, sorry if you didn't tell them, but I will tell them. There are times when the president didn't even want to be president. Yeah. And you were like, we will do this. And you would call meetings that everybody would then come to purely because we would say, okay, fine, we'll cover you provided everybody's there. And there was always that. So in the initial stages, we were okay. We were all right. But I think at some point, I began to see, like things that I didn't like much as a broadcaster and also as a Zambian. But more so, it's also in keeping your word in there's just certain things that didn't work out. So for me, I pulled back. Okay. And I actually did realize that the only time he wanted us was during elections. So I didn't really bother much with it. And I'm sure you noticed that I didn't really care much.
Kept the distance.
Yeah, I kept the distance. A few times he would say something, but he wouldn't say it directly to me. He would probably send one of his handlers who would ask me to apologize for things I didn't do. And then at some point he asked the Minister of Information to tell me that he was about to close us off if we didn't fire Emmanuel Mwamba. And I just told, I remember telling the minister, go ahead and close us off, you're wasting my time. I can't be bothered.
No, I remember Mtale as one of your breakfast host show caused a stir when she told off one of the ministers who had called in. And so you had pressure to have a fire or close the station.
No. So I actually told them because they were in my ears. So I told them, cut him off. Yeah. If you listen to that broadcast, because I noticed that the minister was taking a mickey. He was he was turning this a serious business into a joke. You'd call in and just say what he wants to say. So when you prolong that, in their earphones, I just told them, cut him off. They didn't listen. That I walked into the studio and cut him off. Just cut him off. Let's focus on what
this is a minister.
Yeah, but for me, what I quickly noticed is these people were literally.
They think you are all you're all ZMBC workers.
Yeah, so they'll do things with impunity. So I didn't feel, in as much as that's a very rare occurrence.
So did you protect Mtale Mwamba because she was right, or you felt that you not have any outside overbearing over your station?
So it was me making sure that everybody knew that we're not going to do things that way. So it was the idea that anybody can walk in and out. That wasn't going to be allowed. But more so, it's not hanky-panky. It's not jokes like that. We do run a business. And more so, we have advertisers in there. So we can't have such things happening. And besides, sometimes they live way past their remit. So you have to pull their ears, okay.
Yeah. Like I said, you've had an opportunity to meet literally the last few presidents of our country. And you have met President Hakainde Hichilema from opposition. Yeah. And now that he's been president, and you've worked with him in campaigns too. Yeah. Tell us about him.
I've obviously known the president for a long time, the current president. I know him very well. We speak as regularly as is possible. Essentially, for me...
Did you pick a side in the last 2021 elections?
I did.
Which side did you pick?
So I'd struggles in picking a side purely because I always felt there was things that didn't feel right and they didn't feel truthful. So I didn't go with the big parties. Okay. Yeah, I just felt, like the person that I was resonating with was Fred. Okay. Purely because I just believed what Fred was saying was rather right.
So you didn't pick UPND or PFA big parties?
No, I picked Fred, but I did give opportunity to both big parties.
Of course, the outsiders wouldn't know.
Yeah.
Because they'll find all of us on your station.
Yeah.
They'll hear all the adverts. So they wouldn't know.
They wouldn't know
behind the scenes.
Yeah.
So but you picked Fred, maybe.
Yeah, I picked Fred purely because I believed what he was saying. So it was an easy pick for me. And most I didn't like the insulting. We were not getting the quality of
debate.
Yeah. We just wanted to know what was obtaining. So I've known the president, and many a times. The constriction that I have is that I do speak to him, and if something goes off, I do speak to him. So he's president, so he runs the show. It's his show. We can only speak to a level that he allows us to, and courteously so. So many a times, if there's an issue and you raise it, I think he does respond. But there are just certain things that have gone offline. You get the point? And for me, it's not even about his handlers. It's about himself. Yeah. To get the point. Because every person springs off him. Every person that works for him represents him. Yeah. So ultimately, if you're going to represent me, you've got to do certain things right. And I've had difficult conversation with him. Difficult conversations. But the truth of it is, because he allows me the opportunity to be able to speak to him directly, I would much rather use that avenue than have a go at him. And it's not out of frustration for me. Politics is real.
So he doesn't know, it doesn't matter the hard things sometimes you write against his government in public, or the hard things sometimes that run on your station, you still have an opportunity to call him. And
I don't know how he relates to other people. Yeah. And for me, I don't think I'm in any more privileged position than anybody else. Yeah. But I just feel it's not closed up to me. Okay. Yeah. So if I needed to speak to him and I felt there was an agency to speak to him, either via text or by a call, you'll either call me back or I'll call him and he'll pick up. I will speak to him. He doesn't have to agree with me, or I don't have to agree with him, but I respect the fact that he's president of the republic and the buck stops with him. So
he seems to be facing some of the worst challenges I've seen in many presidents. We have the worst load shedding crisis. It's now going to go to 17 hours. You run businesses. You know the direct effect of load shedding on your business and how costly just it is for you. We have a food crisis. Over 6.8 million people are facing starvation, and the measures to resolve that seems to be quite slow, although some money has come in. We have sectoral crises, the crisis at Ministry of Health. It doesn't matter how many times they say we have medicines in hospitals, but hospital equipment are broken down, x-rays don't work, systems are not working, there's just no medicines in hospitals and clinics and our health centers. Then we have this huge economic crisis. You, again, as a businessman, you understand how it has affected you and your businesses. He has so many crises around him. And as we begin to discuss Zambia at 60, he strikes me as one who's failing and failing very hard. I don't know what your views are.
I wouldn't speak to that, not because I know different, but because a crisis is a crisis, really. But what I will tell you is we have businesses that basically run off electricity. So right now, one of our businesses is spending in excess of 500,000 kwacha a month on diesel alone. Now, whether you're a big business or a small business, you're bound to go, it's just going to go off. So, like every time I see these numbers, I'm like, where to now? Where are we going to go with this? So that is serious. What I just feel is off is being lethargic about it. You know, it's like, it's one thing to be proactive, it's another thing to be lethargic. So it's where you can tell.
You're not seeing the agency to resolve the crisis.
It's like, literally, I'm sinking. I mean, as a businessman, I'm sinking. Now, if I didn't have opportunities that I have, where I'm able to say, you know what, I have so much that I can draw off abroad, purely because I do business abroad. What will become of our businesses? It will all collapse. It will all go down. Now, how long you can hold on to that is very debatable. We are all wishing October came early and the rain started in the hope that something could be worked on. I think there's a sense that I've just noticed. For me, what I despised most about the former president was his inability to act even when a wrong was visibly there, where you're able to tell this is about to collapse. And I think maybe it's because we're this side of the divide. I just tend to think the current president...
Is Hichilema acting any faster at the crisis?
No.
At the crises?
No. Unfortunately not. Unfortunately not. And you won't believe, mark my word, I have an interest in what happens in this country. Why? Because I'm a business person.
Yeah.
And not only that, we employ a total of close to 130 people. Now, if we can't sustain that, it will all come down to crashing. Now, my point is we expect a certain sense of speed, a certain sense of like, where I can tell, I'm a businessman, I know when I'm handling things. And people will tell you when I'm in charge of something, it shows. Why? Because I'm not ducking and diving. It's not about excuses. So our expectation of the president is that he responds to a number of these things very quickly. Some of his ministers are corrupt. And I say this with authority.
Yeah.
Some of them are like seriously corrupt.
Yeah.
Now, why are they still in their jobs?
Does he know they're corrupt?
I wouldn't speak to that to get the point.
Yeah.
But for me, what I will tell you is some of them, I have had to tell them myself. Like what you're doing right now is corruption.
Yeah.
Now, whether he knows it or doesn't know.
The president knows better.
Yeah.
He receives
whether he knows or doesn't know
yeah.
is something else. But for me, what I would speak to is my expectation of a speedier way of doing things is what I probably would have loved of him. Especially that, for me, I trusted him implicitly in terms of leadership.
Yeah.
Because I knew he speaks straight up. And my expectation was that he was going to deal with some of these things like yesterday.
Yeah.
But we can't have a corrupt minister and then everybody's like happy. You get the point? And we all know you can't shift, and I'm sorry I'm being political. You can't flip people about when they're making mistakes. That sometimes just fire her, let her go. And I'm not speaking because there's any, you know, like I hear this thing because my business partner is there, so he was a Chongwe MP. No, we speak to truth.
A wrong is a wrong, and
yeah, we speak to truth. And because we speak to truth, my expectation is that the president needs to act with speed. And I don't know what is going through. I don't know if it's a money issue in the country that we don't have resources. But I also get, to be honest, even as a Zambian, I'm just fed up of the PF story. Do you get the point? I can't be bothered whether the PF was or not. I can't be bothered.
You know, for our audience, every time the president and his ministers open their mouths, they blame the PF for all the problems. Load shedding, they'll say the PF. Lack of food, they'll say. Lack of money, they'll say the PF. Debt, they'll say the PF. Everything is the PF. I think that's what you're talking about.
I'm talking, that's what I'm talking about. I'm simply trying to say, yes, I didn't like the PF either, and you know that. I think I spoke about it in your presence when you were still in power. So it's not like we're trying to, no, the cases, they're gone. We're not interested in those stories. It's like you married a wife. Make her pregnant if you can. Do you get the point? Simple and straightforward. Don't tell us about the boyfriends, the what. No, we're not interested in all of that. You wanted her so badly that
you have her.
That you have her. Now that you have her, just do the do. And I think that's the easier part. I may sound condescending, but that's what the truth is. I don't want to leave.
People are waiting for results.
I don't want to live in another man's shoes. I don't also want to live in a future that I don't know. So we want to make sure that as we're doing Zambia, as we're working through Zambia, Zambia is turning 60. Some of the problems are, of course, from the past. But that's what constitutes leadership. If you can't take over something that you haven't done your homework on. So if you've done your homework and you think you can do it, go ahead and vie for it.
You said when you were taking over Hot FM, you did a SWOT analysis.
Yeah.
Similar to the country, you can see.
But I also think he did. I think the current president did. But for me, I just think, of course, there's quite a bit of natural calamities and all of that. But my expectation, I'll be honest with you, from what I view him as, I still expect him to do better than the previous regime. That's what my expectation is. Why? Because there's just so much to learn from those guys. Yeah. So there's so many.
He has an opportunity to learn from 6 presidents before him.
I don't think we can trivialize it, but I also feel it's about opportunity and opportunity cost, really. So I feel, for me, I still feel he has to succeed for Zambia to succeed because he has a mandate. He has to succeed. And because he has to succeed, that means he has to do things right. And there are no accidents. Being where he is right now, there's quite a lot of things that have gone off. But to be honest, I deal with corruption face to face every day. Face to face every day. If I were to be honest, nothing changed. Yeah. Nothing. What really changed? You know, like, even if I reported it, you know, like the other day, a cop was asking me for a bribe. I was like, yeah, these jokes will never stop, eh? Yeah. Why? Because the reality of it is nothing really changed. Yeah.
Where to, Oscar? We've done 60 years. There are mistakes we've made. What should we do better?
To be honest, I don't think our answers lie with politicians, if I'm honest. Yeah. But I do think they need to provide us with an enabling environment. That's what I think. And that's what I wish that Zambians would be given an opportunity to build. Because that's the only thing that lasts, if we do it ourselves. But we've got to prioritize us. It's like you're sending...
It's easier for a foreigner in this country to get whatever they want, whether it's a license, whether it's an opportunity, whether it's a contract, and it's far harder for Zambians and you Zambian entrepreneurs to get the opportunities they get. Let me give you an example. Zimbabwe is having issues. The British government provided $60 million for farmers to repatriate from there and the Zambian banks to give them loans. And it's easier for a white farmer from South Africa, in shorts, to work in a bank without collateral or anything. Even just lease a farm in Mkushi and obtain $4 million. It's far harder for you and many Zambians to do that. I don't know what causes that. I don't know why we have to admire and lay a red carpet for foreigners other than for our people.
But I also don't think we love each other well. We love each other enough. To be honest, half the people that have either tried to do business with me don't like me much. So, you know, like the other day,
would rather another person succeed.
Yeah, would rather. You know, like for me, all they find, you know, like luckily they don't find me wanting. They look for so many votes. I'm like, it's not even funny anymore. Why? Because they're hoping I stumble. Okay. So whatever I have to do in business, wherever I have to literally double check everything.
You have to be scrupulously clean.
Yeah, because people are literally planning your downfall almost at every stage. And I can bet you after this interview, I will have like 20 phone calls of why did that. So if I wasn't sufficiently resilient, or where I couldn't just be bothered or couldn't be asked, you know, like people literally like go off.
So before we blame foreigners, we may have to find a matter between ourselves. We don't seem to like each other. We don't like success.
No. So, of course, success is a problem. It comes with a problem, and everybody don't like you much. You've got to figure that out. But you won't believe, like, why would you want... Okay, so almost, with the exception of this regime, almost all the previous regime, they've threatened to close us down. No.
You haven't received that phone call yet from this regime?
Not yet.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's welcome.
Yeah, yeah.
But I haven't received it yet. But the truth of it is, I've done business for a long time. So I am comfortable. I'm personally comfortable. It's a waste of time because I am smart enough to know where to invest in the world. Because I've been around a long time. I know how vindictive we are with each other. So I know if I made a mistake and put my eggs in this basket, people would want to walk on them. So I understand that as a business person, I have to be savvy. What hurts most is people not realizing that I employ people. And those people are Zambians. And those Zambians are families. And those families live off what we produce and work towards. So a threat of either closing our businesses or doing that at the back of a political misunderstanding or what you don't like is a waste of Zambian people's time, not mine. Because, to be honest, what's the worst you can do? Lock me up? Do what? Then what? Do you get the point? So I just tend to think politicians, and for me, the worst of them was the previous president, because he just felt every time he had an issue, he had to threaten. Do you get the point? And I hated it. Why? Because if you have an issue with Mtale Mwanza, deal with Mtale Mwanza. It doesn't have to be the station. It doesn't have to be my other businesses. It doesn't have to be, we'll cancel that license, or we'll cancel that exploration license. You get the point? It doesn't have to be like that. So based on that and that alone, I've felt to a greater extent that we have a problem with success, but we also have a problem with just people that are not in your space, but you feel they're affecting your space. So it's all of those. But I think the only way Zambia can succeed if Zambians got empowered. We are not empowered. You know, like, do you get the point? It's also a very great degree of resilience. But
not everyone has that resilience.
And it's also, you know, like, I work at the back of many other things that I've worked. So I can go another 4 or 5 years holding on to what works rather than what we're pursuing. So it's a case of we need to want to get Zambians to succeed. You won't believe, every time we're doing something, there's a foreigner that wants what we want. And their preference is always the foreigner over me, over us, over our businesses. So you're constantly wondering, what is it that you
when
have...
will we become loyal to our country?
To our country.
And to our people.
So there isn't that loyalty. People speak to it, but it's never implemented. You won't believe
it's lip service, huh?
Yeah, it's a lot of lip service. Regime after regime. This is not different. This one is not different. I mean, you know, like, sometimes I wish I didn't know what I know, because it irritates you to the core. Because you're thinking, you know, like, this is the only country we have. And if we're not supported here, and I'm not begging for support.
You're entitled to it.
We're simply trying to say, do us a favor. Leave us alone if you don't want to help us. But don't go pushing, you know, like, don't push me off purely because you feel I don't deserve it or I don't need it.
Or because you won't pay a bribe like the foreigner would, or like the other would pay.
I had a funny experience when a minister told me, the problem with you Zambians, and this is real, in this regime, where a minister told me, the problem with you Zambians is muisafie minwe. You
don't pay bribe as Zambians.
That's what he told me to my face on 2 occasions.
Wow.
And I was like, first I ignored him. And then the second time I was like, we really just don't have it.
You're asking for a bribe,
No, I just told him, we just don't have it. And it's that kind of a setup. And we're simply trying to say, you know what? Given an opportunity, this president has to succeed. And for me, I would not begrudge a president that succeeds because Zambia succeeds. That is it. That's what we're all about. Zambia has to win after all is said and done. So the interest of how tall, how short, how wide is neither here nor there. We have to succeed. Because how many times am I going to be 50? How many times am I going to be 51? So
now you'll be talking of grandchildren.
Grandchildren.
I
already
actually.
I was looking at my granddaughter today. My niece who I married off 2 years ago has a beautiful granddaughter. And I was like, you get the point. So it's those things. But I love Zambia. Too much to keep quiet.
Too much to spoil it.
Yeah. But too much to shut up.
Yeah. No, you can't. You can't shut up. Oscar, I'm so glad that you came. I'm so glad that I finally heard you and got your thoughts. You are media shy, yet you run a media, outfit, and you are rare on programs like this, other than the ones you choreographed. So I'm glad that I had an open conversation with you. As we come to the end of the program, what are your last words?
Well, for me, to be honest, I just love Zambia. I want Zambia to succeed. That's it. I've no ulterior motives. I love this country to come back to it even when I had a good salary abroad.
Yeah.
I could have lived abroad and I was going to still do very well. But I still felt my contribution lied in my home country. So that's how much I love this country, to the extent that it just breaks my heart if things are not going right, if it's not working. So
what's the future of radio? Will it morph into radio and TV and social media? Will radio survive this? You probably have thoughts as you do your programming, as you do your...
The beauty with radio, it's probably the only thing you can do in the background. Everything else you have to use your eyes. So radio is here to stay. So we still have radio.
Or TV, I might have to abandon what I'm doing and watch. Social media, I may need to. But radio, it can be playing in the background while we are...
You can drive from here to Kitwe and still listen to radio. You can't do that watching.
So you still have faith in radio?
I know radio. I do radio for a living.
And TV station, when is it coming up? You had teased us that you have a TV station coming up. And
finally, we sold it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we sold it, and it should be coming up. So
it will come as hot, or someone took up the outfit later?
No. So the brand was sold off completely, and it's actually been it's almost coming up, but it's not in our hands anymore.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're not gonna do TV.
Okay.
We will do film. We will provide
You are associated with a talent show that seemed to have sparked social media debate. Yes. How far? What is it? Why have you come up with that?
We're a film company, so we look for the best way to do things, and one of them is ICANN. Yeah, so ICANN works to get the best talent musically in the country, and that's what it's all about. There's been an iteration of it.
The prizes are big and historical. How do you get that on?
No, sponsors trust us.
Okay.
They trust us with their resources. They trust us with their money. They know we don't pocket money. Yeah. So a lot of sponsors, the biggest worry is, will the money reach the intended target? Yeah. With us, they know it will reach the intended target. We guarantee that all the time. So based on that, the prizes are bigger. You should watch our 20th anniversary. Next year, so from October, this October to next October, we have a year of our 20th anniversary.
Activities.
It's going to be epic.
No, you didn't invite me to your 50th birthday, so I hope I'll be invited to your 20th anniversary.
That was a major lapse. But
no. You
remember, I did tell you.
Out and then I came and...
No, but you changed numbers.
Yes, the police start to be a politician. They get my phones and I lose numbers. I have to buy new ones. That's a story for another day. But I love my country. Whatever is thrown at us, we have to survive it and build this country. No one will build it for us. Unfortunately, we have to do it ourselves. And this show goes to showcase that. That it should be about our country. It should not be about parties and about personalities. It should be about our country. So, Oscar, thank you very much, and thank you for coming. To our dear viewers, we're hosting Mr. Oscar Chavula. He's a media owner. Hot FM Group is an executive chairperson there. He's an entrepreneur. He has various businesses running, but he's also a public commentator. He comments about public issues, about the way our country is running. And as you heard in the interview, he loves our country so much as to come back home to it and invest in our country. Until we have another guest, goodbye and shalom, shalom.